that European leaders will be gathering in Paris on Thursday, the 4th of September, to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine, according to the Financial Times. It is noted that those who met with US President Donald Trump in Washington will gather in Paris on the Thursday by French President Emmanuel Macron's invitation. Joining us now to unpack this is geopolitical analyst Andrei Schwartz. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
My first question is, can you talk us through what we can expect from this meeting?
Yeah, so this is a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, the coalition of 31 countries, primarily European, NATO members, but also as far as Japan and Australia being part of this coalition of countries supporting Ukraine in this war of survival, really, in front of the Russian ambition to destroy Ukraine. And so President Macron of France has called for this meeting in Paris for September 4th. It will be co-chaired with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And we will have, it will be organized in a hybrid format, obviously with, prime minister presidents of the respective countries joining either live at the Elysee Palace in Paris or via teleconference.
Okay, and what?
It will be a follow-up.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, what specific security guarantees do you think Ukraine is hoping for due to that meeting?
So these countries are trying to build upon what they've been discussing with President Trump in Washington after the meeting in Alaska. So on the 18th of August in DC, as people will remember, and the hopes that something will have happened over these 2 weeks which have followed. But we've actually seen Russia continuing its aggression, destroying more Ukrainian cities, killing more Ukrainian citizens, primarily civilians. And so Ukraine is trying to build upon the promises which were made in Washington from both US President Trump as well as European and NATO leaders to create some sort of further pressure on Russia so that they will go to the negotiating table and actually sign upon and actually implement more importantly than signing a ceasefire or a peace accord. And then in terms of security guarantees, these will follow after signatures will be put on such an agreement. And we are talking about a 3-layered security buffer zone and security guarantees provided by countries which are primarily European countries. Some of them being NATO members, and those which have volunteered to provide boots on the ground, so troops on the ground in Ukraine are, for now, the UK and France.
And Andrei, just to interrupt you there, you mentioned boots on the ground. Do you think it's likely that troops will be sent to Ukraine from Europe, considering what Putin has said about that?
Well, ultimately, if we leave it to Putin, then Ukraine is lost, either in the very short term or in the mid to longer term. We need to put pressure on Russia and on Putin specifically. Otherwise, he will continue with his plans to destroy, to annihilate Ukraine as an independent state and nation. So I believe that we need to take with a large grain of salt his threats and promises. And so we need to pressure him into getting to an agreement and whereby, this agreement will not only stop his troops from firing and killing Ukrainians, but it will also permit for a buffer zone to be implemented and secured somehow. And the only way to secure it is via countries which can provide a nuclear umbrella to Europe, including to Ukraine. And these two out of Europe are obviously only the UK and France. And so this is why these two countries have already volunteered that in the event that an agreement will be reached, they will, they stand ready to send troops on the ground in the buffer zone or further out from the buffer zone, but really in Ukraine, in what remains of Ukraine, to secure it from further ambitions from Russia. And then the other layers are, security provided via information security and aerial security from the United States. The United States, unlike what promises the Biden administration has made over the previous 3 years, is not ready, we understand now, to have troops on the ground, boots on the ground in securing Ukraine, but rather they have promised via President Trump in providing intelligence and aerial support in case Russia is trying to be aggressive again past an agreement.
And how is the Kremlin reacting to the talks that are coming up this week?
Well, Russia is putting pressure on Europe and the world continuously. We've seen how today it's likely that the Russians have jammed the GPS guiding systems around Plovdiv airport, where European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was supposed to land momentarily. And so, this was not a life or death scenario for the European Commission President, but really a signal and a threat from Russia towards not only her, but also everyone. So the Kremlin is obviously unhappy with any sort of backing up that Ukraine receives from Europeans, from countries of NATO outside of Europe, including the US, Turkey, and others. And as we've discussed, countries as far out as, again, Canada, Australia, or Japan. But, if we are going to try and maintain a world order, which is based, again, on moral values, on safety of borders, safety of individuals and nations, versus, the rule of the jungle, whereby anyone who feels they are stronger can attack and destroy the other countries, then we need to stand united, and we need to provide support to Ukraine continuously in front of a coalition which Russia and China continue to build. And we've seen in parallel to this meeting how in China, obviously, you have the SCO meeting over the weekend, and then continuing into the Beijing anniversary of the 80th celebration of the defeat of Imperial Japan, together with Nazi Germany and the others who've destroyed not only Europe, but obviously Asia as well. So, we also see how countries who've been victims in the Second World War of barbarity, we've mentioned Imperial Japan, for example, who've destroyed, China, the Philippines, and other countries in Asia. There are ambitions from China to do the same to Taiwan and to the Philippines, who I've just mentioned earlier. So, empires, become stronger, and they have the ambitions of those who they were victims of in past generations. It's quite sad to see that, but we need to, to show that we understand how these ambitions appear and are materialized, and we need to stand strong against these ambitions, whether in Europe or Asia or Africa or anywhere else in the world.
Putin has blamed the West for the war with Ukraine. Will that hinder peace talks, do you think?
So Putin has blamed, as you correctly say, the collective West on this war. But then civilians all over Ukraine, in Kyiv, in Kharkiv, in Dnipropetrovsk, and everywhere else, in Mariupol, those who have survived this onslaught on their blocks of flats and tiny villages will argue that, if the aim was the collective West, the victims should have been, leaders of the collective West and not the brotherly nation of Ukraine, as obviously it was known for decades in Russia. Putin and the Kremlin have created all of these stories about biolabs in Ukraine, about hybrid robots and so on that Ukraine is building. While the truth is really that Ukraine has been a victim of the promises of Russia and has denuclearized via the Budapest Accords of '94, has given up its nuclear umbrella and the promises of Russia to protect Ukraine, not only not to attack, but to protect Ukraine in case it will be attacked by others, have actually turned so sour. And it's really, Russia's and actually Putin's concern was not really with the West, but it was really with the Russians themselves, seeing how the brotherly nation of Ukraine can thrive, can improve via elections, via real elections being held, via democracy, however fragile, but it was being built after the Maidan in Ukraine.
Thank you so
and
much.
how, in the minds of Russians, this idea will be that perhaps democracy could help them as well. So this was the threat that Putin has acted against by launching this unprovoked war against Ukraine.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me this evening, Mr. Schwartz there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right, so after the break, we'll take a look at the key stories